Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations with Regis Tremblay, coming to you from beautiful and historic Yalta in the Crimea of the Russian Federation. Yalta is a city of poets, authors, artists, longtime residents, and tourists located between majestic mountains and the Black Sea. Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations. This is show number 39. My guest tonight is Vladimir Kozin, who's a special assistant, as many of you know who have watched our shows. He's a special assistant to the Russian administration on nuclear treaties and nuclear weapons. And Vladimir has just completed the English edition of this book, which just came out this year in English. It's called The Evolution of the Strategic and Tactical Nuclear Weapons and Their Employment Specifics in the 21st Century. And there you see it. It's 1,200 pages. And this probably is going to be difficult to get, but it was written for experts. It was written for researchers and analysts on nuclear treaties and nuclear weapons. It's an extensively researched study. Now, the topic tonight is important and it's timely. In fact, it's a couple of days late because last week, the United Nations announced on Saturday that 50 countries had ratified a UN treaty to ban nuclear weapons, triggering its entry into force in 90 days. This is a move that's been hailed by anti-nuclear activists, but strongly opposed by the United States and the other nuclear powers. Now, the United States wrote and addressed a written reply to the treaty signatories, 50, saying that the Trump administration believes they made a strategic error and urged them to rescind their ratification. The letter goes on and further says, the 5 original nuclear powers, the United States, Russia, China, Britain, and France, and America's NATO allies, stand unified in our opposition to the potential repercussions of the treaty. I find this incredible and hard to believe. And here is one last quote from that document. The letter said, it would be unfortunate if this treaty were allowed to derail our ability to work together to address pressing proliferations. Vladimir, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Regis. Thank you.
You know, on the one hand, people like us, people like activists all over the world who have been doing everything to campaign, to protest, to write letters, to ban all nuclear weapons from the world, including the country of Japan, who are the only ones that have ever experienced its devastation. And I want you to comment on, I think what I consider a historic vote in the United Nations. But then I'm going to ask you to comment on the letter that the 5 original nuclear powers wrote to the signatories. And I was surprised that Russia was in that group. So first of all, your comments on this historic vote in the United Nations.
Yes, thank you very much for your introduction, Regis. Definitely the treaty, which is called Treaty on Prevention of Nuclear Weapons, is the first such international arrangement since 1945, when nuclear weapons have been invented, produced, and, sorry for that, used against Japan in 1945. So this treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons will become an international law starting from next January 2021. it's a real concrete specific step toward denuclearization of the world on a global scale. And this treaty will add two more international conventions banning two types of other weapons of mass destruction, namely biological and bacteriological and toxin agents banning convention, which entered into force in 1975, and the other international convention dealing with weapons of mass destruction, International Convention on Banning Chemical Weapons. It has been enacted in 1997. So these two international conventions were enacted a long time ago. The problem remains with the nuclear weapons. And as I said earlier, this is the very first step in the right direction to scrap nukes. The third type of weapons of mass destruction, namely nuclear arms, be it strategic or tactical, it doesn't matter. So this treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons has very easy provisions to enact it. Unlike the previous international draft treaty called Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. So the treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons can be enacted very easily after any fifth state, it doesn't matter, nuclear or non-nuclear, has signed it and ratified it. The names are not important. The numbers of signatories and ratification states are important factor. But Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty has very tough implementation prerequisites. The group of 44 specifically mentioned states, including the United States of America and the Russian Federation and the rest of the world, should sign and ratify. The Russian Federation has signed and ratified this treaty in the year 2000 exactly. The United States of America, though it initiated such a treaty called Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, and it was created in 1996, tried to ratify it at the US Senate in 1995, but failed. So, but if any of these 44 nations that signed the treaty but have not ratified it, it will never come into force. It will never be enacted. It will never be implemented. That's a tragedy with the CTBT. But unlike with the CTBT, a treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons, it's much easier to be enacted. That's a very positive factor. And definitely, no doubt, that's my personal feeling, is that the newly emerged treaty on banning of nuclear weapons globally will give a strong impetus to nuclear arms control and to nuclear disarmament. But it will offer such a positive developments in nuclear arms control gradually, not at one go. So, but unfortunately, Regis, there are some negative setbacks related to treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons. Well, look, only 50 nations have signed and ratified this treaty that was ready by 2017. That's nearly 25% of the world. it's not a full pack, not all of us. Second, we know for sure that there are 9 declared or non-declared, but de facto 9 nuclear weapon states existing today, and they will exist tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. None of them have signed and ratified this very treaty by this date. We are talking with each other on October 26, 2020. Next setback is that the newly born treaty on banning nuclear weapons does not contain any fixed date to eliminate nuclear weapons globally entirely for good and irreversibly. Unlike the global appeal to 9 governments, a public petition sponsored for today nearly by 10,000 various national NGOs and many individuals from many countries. Another setback is that even the newly born treaty banning nuclear weapons will be official international arrangement in banning and outlawing nuclear weapons on the globe. Unfortunately, it has not stopped nuclear arms race that has intensified recently. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that such treaty will be able to squeeze tightly nuclear arms race, which is unfolding each day, day in, day out. So the treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons does not prevent some NATO member countries to violate the non-proliferation treaty, another treaty dealing with nuclear arms control. And many nations having nuclear capabilities are modernizing their either strategic offensive nuclear arms or tactical nuclear arms. Some of them have both. Some of them have only tactical nuclear weapons or operational tactical nuclear weapons. Doesn't matter. All of them are nuclear. So why the Russian Federation has not backed the new treaty banning nuclear weapons? Well, first of all, it has many setbacks. I have already enumerated them, cataloged them, at least 4 characteristic features. Another setback is for us that our voice have not been heard when the treaty was drafted. We have not participated in drafting the treaty. Nobody asked us to sit together and to offer our expertise, what to do with nuclear weapons in the short or in the long run. But gradually, I believe that the Russian Federation will sooner or later support politically and juridically this very treaty we are talking about, banning nuclear weapons. Simply because the Russian Federation would like gradually, by stages, to move into nuclear deterrence to non-nuclear deterrence that will not threaten to anybody. So based on totally new type of weapons, which cannot be called weapon of mass destruction, or WMD as an acronym. Well, I'm not so sure that the US government has the right to make a response on our behalf. We are a sovereign state. We can issue statement on the fact that 50 world countries have already subscribed and ratified the treaty under question. Today, I have looked through the website of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other official bodies in my country, but I have not seen any statement on this effect. Probably it will appear. It will appear even this month or in the upcoming November. But nevertheless, a special statement will be issued by Moscow in January next year, when the treaty banning nuclear weapons will become an international law. Regis, your questions, your remarks?
Okay, so let's clarify. Are you saying that the United States and those other countries or whoever wrote that letter that Russia did not agree to be part of that and that America was speaking for Russia? Is that what you meant?
Your understanding of what I have already commented is absolutely correct. I have not seen any joint political declaration or statement made by the P5, including the Russian Federation, who is expressing our national stance, our position towards this treaty. But soon the treaty was signed only. We made a statement explaining the setbacks of the treaty banning nuclear weapons globally. They are openly and evident for anybody. They have been declared in the air quite openly. So it's not a state secret. But I cannot agree that any nation in the world can interpret what we have said or what we have not said so far on this issue.
Wow. Well, thank you for that clarification and your analysis of where we're really at with this uh, banning nuclear weapons. And you mentioned the appeal, which you were the one that created that, and many other people chimed in and offered their views, and it was subsequently edited in a small way. As you mentioned, we have very close to 10,000 signatures now, and
Yes.
I'm hoping that this show and the fact that the treaty was signed might be an attention-grabbing moment for many other people in the world to sign that petition. I have repeatedly posted it, repeatedly asked people on Facebook, on VK, in my emails to please sign that petition. And I think for whoever's listening here, if you haven't signed it, really asking you to go and sign that petition. 10,000 signatures, given the world's population of some 7 billion people, is insignificant. We need many, many more to put pressure on our governments and on those people who are making these decisions. So, Vladimir, I have one more question, and it's the last thing I quoted from that letter, and I quote it now. It would be unfortunate if the TPNW were allowed to derail our ability to work together to address pressing proliferations. I read that statement and I see such hypocrisy.
Yes,
I see
exactly.
such. I mean, it's striking, and I'm really angry about it. But what's your comment on that?
Yes, look, I have a vivid example, just to be used properly for today's conversation between us. Look, in September 2019, so last year, President Vladimir Putin offered to the United States of America and its NATO allies full pack, plus the European Union, and to the Secretary General of NATO alliance, a proposal to usher in a special moratorium on non-deployment of the INF-related nuclear missiles in Europe. Replacing some difficulties we are confronting with after the INF Treaty is dead from August 2019, last year as well. Today, on October 26th, President Vladimir Putin has reiterated the same proposal he put forward in September last year to impose agreeable moratorium on deployment of the INF-related medium and short-range missiles in Europe and in Asia, seemingly answering to remarks made by U.S. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper at the meeting of the Atlantic Council, October 20th, when he declared, Mr. Mark Esper declared that allegedly the United States of America is going to deploy more than 2,000 medium-range and shorter-range missiles in Asia and in Europe. Look, in today's statement on this very moratorium, reiterated once again, the Russian leader has suggested to the Western world and to nuclear weapons like the United States and NATO countries, namely the United Kingdom and France, to agree to a verification mechanism with regard to the Aegis Ashore missile defense system that are deployed at the US and NATO bases in Europe, especially in Romania, already operational base, and to build very soon in Poland, in Tredzikowo, near Słupsk, up north of Poland, very close to the Kaliningrad region. So to verify what is going on at this operational basis of the U.S. missile defense system, and in turn ask our Western counterparts to verify deployment of the Russian missile 9M729, called in NATO as SSC-8, but which cannot be covered by the late INF Treaty, simply because it has the range less than 500 kilometers, where from medium, shorter range missiles are counted. So this missile, exactly 9M729, has maximum firing range 480 kilometers, that 20 kilometers less than the shorter range missiles are counted. But nevertheless, Vladimir Putin suggested that we are ready for such a verification mechanism, verification arrangements. He also said that in order to get to bring the world without the INF Treaty, it appears that at the Asia-Pacific region, such a verification measures can be debated and tackled between the parties concerned. But unfortunately, I'm afraid that NATO countries and Mr. Donald Trump administration will not support this second offer on the moratorium on deployment of the INF missiles of both Russia, the Russian Federation, and the United States of America. Because the first echo came from Germany. The German Foreign Ministry said that they are not happy with the new Russian proposal. Probably tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, NATO and Washington will declare their own stances, their own position on verification measures to be dealt with the INF non-deployment in Europe or in Asia. But the reply will be negative, simply because as long as NATO and the United States of America have decided not to support the first Russian moratorium on INF deployment, which, as I said, was articulated in September last year, it means that they will not support the second type of this very moratorium with a verification offer as well. It will be illogical if they decided to abstain from backing this first offer. They will abstain from upholding and giving positive response to the second moratorium declared today, October 26, 2020, by the Russian leader Vladimir Putin. So we are still in a very difficult position. Nuclear arms control treaties are being collapsed. No resurrection of them. Moratorium or other positive steps are neglected, are not supported, are not backed by the respective governments. So let's keep our fingers crossed and touch the wood, but let's hope for the best, that sooner or later, but nevertheless, the global nuclear powers will understand that it is irrelevant, very dangerous to rely upon the third type of weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons. It would be a dead end of the entire civilization. Even innocent countries will suffer, who does not have nuclear capabilities, who will not be involved in nuclear confrontation, in nuclear exchange of attacks, etc. So that's what I said. Regis.
Well, Vladimir, you and I have been discussing this topic for a couple of months now, and it's become very, very clear to me, very clear, and to anyone who is objective, not blinded by patriotism, nationalism, propaganda, but willing to listen. All of this has been one-sided. It's been the United States of America, my country, who has withdrawn from all these treaties except, and we'll see whether they agree to extend the New START Treaty, unilaterally withdrew. On the other hand, Russia has been consistent for years and years, asking the United States and the other nuclear armed countries in NATO to take positive, progressive steps to disarm and reduce the threat of Armageddon, a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue having this discussion, Vladimir, as long as you and I are both alive and available, because it cannot be repeated enough. The duplicity and the hypocrisy of the United States of America in terms of nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction, whatever kind it might be. So I want to thank you very much again for coming on tonight. It was really a late notice, but this just happened this weekend. The announcement was made on Saturday, and I know you'll continue to follow it, as will I, and I will look forward to having you again often so that we can continue, on the one hand, to analyze what is really going on, to search for the truth, and to continue to do our part to spread the word to ban nuclear weapons from our world. So, thank you again, Vladimir. It's good to see you. And
Regis. Yeah. Come on. Continue,
No.
please.
I was just going to say thank you again.
Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed for your very kind words. Yes, let's go ahead with this quite positive thing to be implemented, to be understood. I have a suggestion to you personally first, because you are initiator and anchor of this program. May I ask you to any person all over the world to ask me some questions. Why you? So please ask somebody. So you are open for a couple of questions. A couple simply because this program is not unlimited. It has certain time limits, nearly 45, 50 minutes, so not more or even less. So one or two questions related to me, you will also ask me, but let some person so think it over. If it is possible, if it is expedient, I am ready to answer any questions from the audience. Send to you preliminary, and you simply articulate any of these questions on nuclear arms control, on missile defense, on nuclear doctrine and strategies, etc. Like this.
So
ready, steady, go.
it is possible. However,
Yeah.
I've had many problems with this live streaming application that I'm using. Even now, there's been a problem that just occurred recently. Nothing has changed with my setup, but I get this hum. Once I go to YouTube and I listen, there's a hum there. So I have to bring it into my editing program and use a noise filter to cut that out so that the audio sounds really good. Now,
Yeah, Dolby system.
Dolby
System.
But I'm
noise suppressing system. Dolby. It's called Dolby.
Yeah.
Noise suppressing system.
Well, I have that. I have that on my editing program. It works wonderful, but it's twice as much work to produce a show having to do that. Now, in answer to your question on whether people can or how people can ask questions, there is a possibility, but what it means is whenever I export the show and save it to YouTube, it's always private. Nobody can see it. It's not really live. Okay?
I see.
The reason now is because of the hum that I don't want to appear on the show. But you know what? We'll try it again very soon. I'll turn on the ability to have people make captions, and we'll do it live, regardless of the hum or the hiss or whatever it is. We'll do it live.
Look, Regis, I would like to clarify my point in this particular case. It's not necessary to bring other people into our program, into video conference, let's say, but they may send you questions via electronic email, by electronic mail, preliminary, beforehand, in a written form. Yes, via normal electronic mail. And you will simply read it. Read it. That's it. It's not necessary to appear them on the screen, on the video working table. No. I didn't mean that. Simplest way.
I will do that. I will now invite people to send in questions, but I did not mean that we would have other people visually on the program. It's just
it's not necessary.
No, but in a little sidebar, which is called a chat room, while we're live, people can send in questions right then and there.
Yes, I understand. I know. Yeah, especially using Zoom program.
We'll try both.
Yes. And I promise you, I will buy this tripod holder to hold a smartphone. Yeah. Because my notebook does not have inserted built-in camera, TV camera, video camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to close the show and we'll chat for just a little
Yeah.
bit when it's done. But thanks again, Vladimir. It's always
Yes, my
always
pleasure.
wonderful to have you on the show.
Take care. Take care. Good luck. Good luck. God
Thank-
bless you.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Ciao. Bye.